At the start of the story, we meet Johnny, a mechanic who spends his days working at a small auto repair shop. One day, his girlfriend Beth comes to see him with the news he has been afraid of for a long time. She tells him that she wants to break up. She wants someone who can promise to spend the rest of his life with her, but Johnny has always avoided talking about marriage and commitment. The truth is, Johnny is terrified of getting married. He grew up without his father and always believed that his dad had deliberately abandoned him and his mother. That fear stayed with him for years and stopped him from wanting a family of his own. Beth had waited as long as she could, but she was finally tired of waiting. She blamed the breakup entirely on Johnny, but deep down, she was leaving because she believed he would never become successful and would stay poor for the rest of his life. Johnny is heartbroken after Beth leaves, but he decides to focus only on taking care of his mother and living a simple, ordinary life. That night, he goes to a bar where he often hangs out with his friends. With a broken heart, he gets on stage and starts singing at the top of his lungs. During his performance, a woman walks into the bar and immediately notices him. After the song ends, she introduces herself as Prudence. She explains that she is an advisor to the Duke of Glaswick in England. Prudence hands Johnny a plane ticket and tells him to travel to England to meet the Duke. She also shows him an old birth certificate proving that Johnny is actually the Duke's biological son. Johnny is completely shocked. He pushes the document back toward her and says he has no interest in meeting the man who walked away from his family 30 years ago. This is where his journey truly begins. The next morning, Johnny goes straight to his mother Dottie and demands to know the truth. Once she realizes that he already knows part of the story and that she can no longer hide it, she finally tells him everything. When Dottie and William, the Duke of Glaswick, were young, they met and fell deeply in love. But William's family refused to accept their relationship, so the two of them ran away together. William promised that he would leave everything behind and stay with her forever. However, the pressure from his powerful family eventually pulled him back. Heartbroken, Dottie called off the wedding. A short time later, she discovered that she was pregnant. She tried many times to tell William about the baby and sent him countless letters, but she never received a single reply. Believing that William had forgotten her, she decided to raise her son on her own. She finally tells Johnny that he should meet William so he can get to know the father he never had the chance to meet. Following his mother's advice, Johnny arrives at the magnificent mansion that the Duke of Glaswick calls home. Prudence welcomes him and gives him a short tour of the estate, showing him several rooms along the way. A little later, she takes him to the Duke's study and asks him to wait there. Before leaving, she reminds him not to touch anything. The moment she steps outside, Johnny picks up an old fencing sword and starts playing with it. A few moments later, William walks into the room. The resemblance between father and son is unbelievable. They look alike, speak in a similar way, and even share many of the same habits. When Johnny realizes that the man standing in front of him is the father he has never met, the atmosphere quickly becomes tense. Meanwhile, William assumes that Johnny has come looking for money. He has no idea that Prudence was the one who invited him there. The accusation deeply hurts Johnny. He tells William that he only came to meet the father who disappeared from his life years ago. But after finally meeting his son for the first time in decades, William's cold attitude leaves Johnny disappointed and furious. Before Johnny leaves, William asks about Dottie. Johnny tells him that his mother had always dreamed of becoming a singer. She probably told him about that long ago, but she never got the chance because she had to raise him. She couldn't afford to wait for a big break, so she had to take ordinary jobs just to make a living. Johnny is now even angrier with his father, so he decides to leave the mansion. Prudence tries to stop him. She reminds him that he is the son of a royal family and the only heir to his father. One day, he is supposed to become the Duke of Glaswick himself. But Johnny replies that he has no desire to stay with a man like William. Prudence asks where he plans to go, and Johnny, clearly irritated, says he'll just stay at a hotel. As he walks outside, he notices an old car sitting in the mansion's garage. He instantly likes it, but it is covered in a thick layer of dust. He quickly writes a small message on the dusty window, asking someone to clean the car. After that, he heads to a nearby bar where he repairs an old music box for the owner. He hasn't been away from the mansion for very long when Prudence tracks him down once again. She tells Johnny that William wants him to stay at the mansion for an entire week. Johnny refuses immediately, saying he has no intention of going back. Prudence then offers him a deal. She challenges him to a game of darts. If she wins, he must return to the mansion and stay there for a week. But if Johnny wins, he can return to America, and she will grant him one request, whatever it may be. Confident that he can beat her, Johnny accepts the challenge. but Prudence has incredible aim and wins the match with ease. Later, Johnny finds out that she is actually a professional darts player. A deal is a deal, so Johnny agrees to return to the mansion. After showing him to his room, Prudence relaxes in the sitting area and starts scrolling through Johnny's social media posts. Just then, a maid named Annie walks in and catches Prudence smiling while looking at a photo of Johnny and his mother. Annie immediately teases Prudence with a smile, asking if she has started liking Johnny. Embarrassed, Prudence quickly denies it and insists that nothing like that is going on. The next morning, Prudence goes to Johnny's room and finds him repairing an old phonograph that had been broken for years. A little later, she takes him on a bicycle ride so he can see the Duke's estate for himself. Along the way, she explains that the Duke of Glaswick owns nearly 42,000 acres of land, most of which is used for farming. The estate also has a private church and a special burial ground reserved for members of the royal family. Prudence also tells Johnny that William's father spent the family's remaining fortune and left behind enormous debts. After that, she takes Johnny to one of the farms, where an elderly man named Finch warmly welcomes them. Johnny immediately notices an old grinding machine that has been out of service for almost 10 years. When he asks about the large pile of beets nearby, Finch explains that growing beets is no longer very profitable. He also tells Johnny that William is a kind man who has never charged rent to the farmers working on the Duke's land. As they head back to the mansion, Prudence introduces Johnny to his cousin, Alistair. If William had never had a child, Alistair would have become the next Duke. While walking through the fields, Prudence asks Johnny to seriously consider becoming the Duke. She openly admits that she does not want Alistair to inherit the title. She then shares her own story with Johnny. Her parents worked for the Duke's family for many years, so she grew up in the mansion. When she was only 8 years old, both of her parents died in an accident. William took her in, raised her like his own daughter, sent her to the best schools, and gave her every opportunity she wanted. Because of everything William had done for her, Prudence felt deeply grateful to him. That was why she wanted the next Duke to be someone who truly deserved the position, someone exactly like Johnny. Before long, special guests begin arriving at the mansion. Among them are Alistair and his mother, and they waste no chance to look down on Johnny. They assume that since he grew up as an ordinary man in America, he knows nothing about royal life. Later, during a horseback riding session, Alistair tries to embarrass him again. He is certain that Johnny has never ridden a horse before. To everyone's surprise, Johnny handles the horse with complete confidence. Not only that, he even saves Alistair from falling off his horse. A while later, Johnny is seen in the kitchen making fresh beet juice for some of the staff members. Annie says she never used to like beets because of their slightly bitter taste, but after trying Johnny's juice, she is amazed by how delicious it is. Johnny explains that beets also have many health benefits. Just then, Prudence walks into the kitchen and tells everyone to get back to work. Before leaving, she tries the juice herself and enjoys it just as much. That evening, Johnny gets ready for a special dinner being held at the Duke's mansion. When he sees Prudence wearing a beautiful dress, he is completely stunned by how gorgeous she looks. During dinner, Johnny struggles with the first course because an unusual-looking fish is served, and just looking at it makes him lose his appetite. Alistair immediately takes advantage of the situation and starts making fun of him. He sarcastically says that Johnny probably knows nothing about royal table manners and offers to teach him later if he needs help. Johnny completely ignores the insult. Instead, he tells a joke that makes everyone at the table laugh. It becomes clear that he has no intention of being intimidated by Alistair or his mother. Whatever they throw at him, he always has an even better response. At the end of the dinner, Alistair stands up proudly and declares that he is honored to become the next Duke. At that very moment, Johnny rises from his seat and shocks everyone by announcing that Alistair will not be the next Duke. He says that he will inherit his father's title himself. The atmosphere in the room changes instantly. Prudence's face lights up with happiness, and William also looks genuinely pleased because he had always wanted his own son to succeed him. William then publicly admits that Johnny is his son and officially announces that he will become the next Duke of Glaswick. Hearing this, Alistair and his mother are furious. Later, they confront William in private, but he refuses to change his decision. He firmly tells them that Johnny is his real son, and if Johnny wants to become the Duke, then it is his rightful place. Meanwhile, Johnny and Prudence go to a bar with their friends to celebrate the news. That night, Johnny cannot fall asleep, so he heads to the garage and starts working on the old car again. A little while later, William joins him and asks why he wants to become the Duke. He also admits that when he first inherited the title, he had no idea what he was doing either. As they continue repairing the car together, they slowly begin to understand each other a little better. The following day, Prudence starts teaching Johnny how to dance. They are preparing for an upcoming royal event where members of many noble families from across England will be attending. Prudence wants to make sure Johnny looks perfectly confident in front of everyone. During one of their dance lessons, Annie suddenly walks in and thanks both of them because they invited her boyfriend to the event as well. Soon afterward, Prudence learns that Johnny has also invited Finch and the farmers who have worked on the estate for years. Hearing this makes her emotional, especially because Johnny has only been there for a short time, yet he already cares deeply about everyone who works on the estate. As their dance practice continues, the mood slowly turns romantic. Johnny and Prudence move closer and closer to each other, and for a moment, it seems as if they are about to kiss. Just then, Annie and a few staff members walk in and catch them standing so close together. Both of them immediately step back, and the moment comes to an awkward end. Later, Johnny returns to the garage to continue working on the old car, and William joins him once again. While adjusting the engine together, William finally opens up about the past. He tells Johnny that he never received any of Dottie's letters, and had no idea that he even had a son. He also explains that he wrote to Dottie many times, but never got a reply. In the end, he assumed that she had moved on with her life. Johnny tells him that his mother never received any of William's letters either. At that moment, they both realize that someone had deliberately kept them apart all those years. A little later, Johnny asks William to try starting the engine. The moment William turns the key, the old car roars back to life. Both of them light up with excitement and laugh together like little kids. Meanwhile, Alistair secretly sneaks into William's study and finds Johnny's birth certificate. As soon as he sees it, a smile spreads across his face, as if he has just come up with a new plan. The following day, Johnny takes William for a drive in the restored vintage car. After being cleaned and polished, it now looks almost brand new. From a distance, Prudence and the butler watch the two of them together. Seeing father and son finally growing close fills them with happiness. After that, they visit the farm, where Johnny has repaired the old grinding machine that had been broken for years. Now Finch and the other farmers are using it to make fresh juice, which is selling well and earning them a good income. William is delighted to see everything Johnny has accomplished and immediately invites everyone to join the upcoming celebration. However, when they return to the mansion, Alistair and his mother are already waiting for them. They reveal something that changes everything. They point out that Johnny was born after William and Dottie's marriage had been cancelled. According to the law, that would make Johnny an illegitimate child, meaning he has no legal right to inherit the title of Duke. The news leaves both William and Johnny completely stunned. Neither of them has anything to say. Johnny is heartbroken. Even so, he is grateful that he finally got the chance to know his father. Feeling that he no longer has a place there, he decides to leave. Even though Prudence repeatedly asks him to stay, Johnny quietly says that he never truly belonged there in the first place, and then he walks away. He heads straight to the local bar where everyone has already heard the news. They are all saddened by what happened and decide that if Johnny is not going to the celebration, then they will not go either. Back at the mansion, Annie and the rest of the staff feel exactly the same way. To support Johnny, they also decide not to attend the event. Meanwhile, Prudence is looking over Johnny's birth certificate once again in her office. Suddenly, she notices an important detail. The moment she realizes what it means, she rushes out to find Johnny before he leaves. She stops him and asks him to come to the dance, if only for her sake. Before the event begins, William welcomes all of the guests. Then he is completely surprised when he sees Dottie arriving at the mansion. He can barely hide his happiness and immediately escorts her inside to introduce her to everyone. A little later, Johnny also arrives at the celebration with Prudence and his friends. Watching all of this, Alistair and his mother are clearly irritated. In their eyes, ordinary people have no place at a royal celebration. In the middle of the crowd, Johnny suddenly notices his mother. He is completely shocked because he had no idea she was coming. Dottie hugs him and tells him that William had already sent her a plane ticket and personally invited her to the event. Soon afterward, William steps forward and finally speaks the words he has kept in his heart for years. He says that in just 1 week, his entire life has changed. Because of his son, all of his old memories have come back, and for the first time in years, he feels that he might be able to reclaim the life he lost long ago. He then proudly announces in front of everyone that Johnny will be his rightful heir. The moment those words are spoken, Alistair jumps in and loudly objects. He insists that Johnny is illegitimate and therefore cannot become the Duke. Just then, Prudence steps forward and reveals the truth. She explains that William's signature on the marriage cancellation papers is forged. It can easily be proven by comparing it with William's real handwriting. William writes with his left hand, and the way he signs his name is so unique that copying it would be extremely difficult. Hearing this, Alistair panics and starts mumbling excuses. He argues that the papers are still signed, so it should not matter. Before he can say anything else, William firmly orders him to leave. A few moments later, Johnny walks over and gives his father a heartfelt hug. He then shares his plans for the future, announcing that he wants to start a juice company together with the farmers whose families have worked on the land for generations. At the end of the story, Johnny invites Prudence to dance. Soon the other guests join them, and the entire ballroom fills with joy and celebration. After the dance, Johnny takes Prudence into the garden, where he finally confesses his love to her. Prudence happily says yes and kisses him. In the end, Johnny not only becomes the new Duke, but also wins the love of the woman he truly cares about.